Hello and welcome to Hitting the Field. I'm your host, Jeremy Taché. I'm joined by Jimmy Calhoun and a new face, Tyler Grady, joining us on the show. So welcome, Tyler. And we're very glad that you're joining us for our last episode of this semester. And to start the show, we'd really like to discuss the college football playoff. Yesterday, the committee chose its final top four rankings, going with Alabama at 1, Clemson at 2, Ohio State at 3, and Washington at 4. There are all sorts of problems with this top four. Now, I'm not saying that all of these teams don't have a legitimate case to be in the top four or that they don't deserve it. It's just that this top four doesn't seem to have any sort of logic behind it. Let me explain. Alabama is the consensus number one team in the country. They won their conference, they won the SEC, so let's move them out of this conversation. I say let's move them out because, let's be real, we all know that they're going to win the next two games by 30 points each one that they play. So it's 2 through 4 that has me confused because we're mixing ideals of what a top four team needs to be. Clemson and Washington seem to have made the top four because they won their conference, and they are conference champions. Neither of them had a wild out-of-conference schedule. Both had one hiccup, and both won their respective conferences. Ohio State, on the other hand, made the playoff because, well, they're Ohio State. They had some nice wins that can't be overlooked. Michigan, Wisconsin, and Oklahoma. But they lost to Penn State and thus did not go to their conference championship game. Oh, and speaking of Penn State, yeah, they had just 2 losses, one to Michigan and one out of conference against Pittsburgh. Both early in the year, they beat Ohio State and won the Big Ten. So with that and what I just laid out there, how do these rankings make any sense? The committee is trying to have the best of both worlds, and it leaves countless schools left in the dust wondering what they could have done differently to impress the committee. Kirby Hocutt, the chair of the committee, said that they looked for the 4 best teams in the country. But that's just not what they did. If you were looking for the 4 best teams in the country, then Michigan and USC would both be in that conversation. Michigan, who beat Penn State by 40, and USC, who's won 9 in a row and beat 2 top 10 teams in the country, including Washington, in that span. They need to be in the conversation. And his colleagues were not picking the 4 best teams. If you're going to pick the 4 best, selecting Ohio State because you think they're the better team than Penn State, even though Penn State beat them, it just completely eliminates the purpose of conference championships. And I don't like to see it. During the first year of the playoff, it seemed like the committee wanted you to win your conference. Then they said, just don't lose in conference. Now it feels like, all right, you know what? We'll value some conference championships, and on other perspectives, we'll just eyeball it. It's disappointing, and I hope that they either decide to truly put the 4 best teams in the country in the playoff, or they make the conference championships matter in a large sense. So, end rant there. The college football playoffs. But moving forward, we will talk NFL now, and it's our last show until the middle of January. So by the time we come back, we'll be headed right towards the conference championships in the NFL. And it's an opportunity for us to preview what's going to happen the rest of the year. So before we get to that, we'd like to start with some recap of yesterday. And there was a full slate of games amongst teams trying to stay in the playoff race. Pittsburgh and Detroit's defenses really stepped it up, got them big wins. And the Packers and Buccaneers won big games as well, but Miami, Atlanta, and Washington all went down in pretty deflating ways. Miami was blown out, and late interceptions killed Atlanta and Washington. So, Tyler, we're going to start this one with you. Which of those 3 hurt their playoff chances the most?
Well, I think that it's got to be Miami. When you look at the competition for that wild card spot, for both of those wild card spots, the AFC West alone could send 2 teams. Then you're staring down Buffalo, Baltimore, and Pittsburgh. They've got a game in Buffalo and a game against New England at home. I just don't see them coming back from this.
And Jimmy?
I think it's the Redskins. They went into the weekend in the 6th seed and then came out of the weekend the 7th seed. They lost to conference opponent, the Cardinals. Now they're only a half game above Minnesota and Green Bay, who both have easier schedules than Washington the rest of the way. I think Washington really hurt their chances. The division's out of reach. It's the Cowboys division. And to get that wild card, they already lost the 6th seed, and I think with Minnesota and Green Bay on the come up, I don't think they can get back to it.
Yeah, 2 tough losses for 2 very good teams that may underachieve this season. And now we move to the future. There have been some great individual performances this year, and it's led us to a great MVP debate. There's Matt Stafford and his 8-4 Lions. Tom Brady, Derek Carr, Matt Ryan, and of course, the rookie, Dak Prescott. You can make a good case for any of them, but who wins the most valuable player this year, Jimmy?
I think it's got to be Derek Carr. He's led the Raiders to a 10-2 record. He's 4th in passing yards, 7th in touchdowns, 7th in QBR, and only has 5 interceptions on the season. And the defense is 29th in yards allowed and 23rd in points allowed. Derek Carr is carrying the team. He's been clutch all year. He has 5 touchdowns in the fourth quarter and overtime, which is an NFL record. He's leading his team to victories, and he's doing it efficiently. I think he's the MVP this season.
And Tyler?
You nailed it right there. It's the clutch that Derek Carr has. He's got 11 comeback wins in the fourth quarter since he came into the year, 6 of those this year alone. Like you said, the defense been putting him in tough spots all year. And when you look at the other races, Zeke and Dak have a tendency to cancel each other out.
Right.
Which hand is doing more. You've got Brady versus the scheme. They did pretty well when he was out, and he missed 4 games of the season.
Of course.
When you take Derek Carr out of that equation, Oakland's a completely different team.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's definitely going to be interesting, and Derek Carr absolutely deserves it. My vote personally would go to Matt Stafford. It's unbelievable what the Lions have done, trailing in almost every game this season in the fourth quarter. But headed to the final question of this segment, we're going to have to cut one short. And the final question of this segment, every one of those quarterbacks is in the thick of things when it comes to the playoffs, and a couple of them are going to be fighting until the final weeks of the season to get in. There are a few divisions tied with 2 or 3 teams near the top. So I ask you guys not only what is the most interesting playoff race, but who will win that race. And Tyler, we'll start with you.
Okay, I've got a little bit of a wild card here. I think that the NFC South has the potential to be the most exciting playoff race. You've got New Orleans lurking in the depths, just a couple of games back, sitting at 3rd, with the #1 offense in the NFL. You can never count out Drew Brees.
Right.
Tampa Bay and New Orleans actually play each other twice coming up, and there's Carolina is still Carolina. The reigning MVP resides there.
Yeah, Cam Newton's still going to be Cam Newton no matter what. And Jimmy, what do you think?
I think it's going to be the AFC North. You had the Steelers and the Ravens battling it out, both at 7-5. Both teams ended a team's 6-game win streak last week. The Steelers and Ravens play again in Pittsburgh on Christmas Day. The Ravens have a tougher schedule than Pittsburgh does, but I think the Steelers will pull it out. The Steelers have to play the Browns at the end of the year, and the Ravens have New England coming up. I think that's the game right there, and plus Pittsburgh gets them at home.
Yeah, and this is a heck of a debate between you two. Just to fire from the start, newcomer and Tyler really bringing a few great stats, including the 6 comeback victories this year from Derek Carr in Oakland. But Jimmy, talking about what Washington had to do, it's as simple as this. They started at 6, they ended up at 7, and that was devastating for them. And that would have been a great point to make about Miami, same situation. And the Steelers and Ravens debate, 2 great teams. It should be interesting down the stretch. So the victory for this round is going to go to Jimmy Calhoun, and we'll be back after this commercial break with Chris and Dimitri to talk some basketball. Stay tuned.
Today, when you have multiple devices at your fingertips, wouldn't it be great if you could run the software you need on all of them? Well, now you can. UCF Apps is a new and innovative way for you to access the applications that you need to get your coursework done from any PC, Mac, tablet, or smartphone. For more information or to give your input on UCF Apps, go to apps.ucf.edu. What are you waiting for? Start using UCF Apps today.
Lake Claire's Universities of Central Florida's place for relaxation, tranquility, and a good time. Students who crave the outdoors can experience the wonders of Lake Claire and all the benefits it has to offer. Lake Claire offers a wide variety of kayaks, wakeboards, canoes, and much, much more. All of this is free for UCF students and can be rented out every day of the year except for on football game days. Students can take advantage of the wide open spaces and throw around a frisbee with your friends, or attack the ball with our sandy volleyball court. Come by the dock, sit down, and enjoy the beautiful view of Lake Claire's clear blue waters. Located just off the side of Gemini Boulevard and Greek Park Drive, this bubble of nature is one you must check out after finals week. For more information and rentals, visit our website so you can enjoy Lake Claire today.
Today, when you have multiple devices at your fingertips, wouldn't it be great if you could run the software you need on all of them? Well, now you can. UCF Apps is a new and innovative way for you to access the applications that you need to get your coursework done from any PC, Mac, tablet, or smartphone. For more information or to give your input on UCF Apps, go to apps.ucf.edu. What are you waiting for? Start using UCF Apps today.
Hello and welcome back to Hitting the Field. I am joined by Dimitri Zamaris, Chris Davis, and we're going to talk some NBA now here on Hitting the Field, as I'm looking back and forth a little bit. But our next show, like I said, is January 16th, and that's almost exactly 1 month to the day before the All-Star game in the NBA. And so, at the moment, Russell Westbrook is absolutely dominating the league. And watching him play basketball right now kind of reminds me, if you guys can remember, Danny Almonte back in the Little League World Series, you know, like the 25-year-old playing in the Little League World Series. That's what it feels like athletically coming from these guys and coming from Russell Westbrook. And just in terms of athletic dominance, he's averaging a triple-double. And when we're back from our break, I want to know, Chris, will he still be averaging a triple-double?
I'll have to say, yeah. You have to look at, he's averaging triple-double currently. 10.8 is the rebounding category because that seems like the hardest to get. But
right.
He's 41 usage rating. He's averaging his highest minutes total. And he's had 10 times double-figure assists, 11 times double-figure rebounds just this month. He's heating up. And what they're doing is they're just saying, okay, go get that ball and push the ball. The coaches want it in the guard's hand to run your offense anyway, so he's going to keep it.
And Beach?
I'm not sure if he's going to still be averaging a triple-double, but he's definitely going to have to be averaging a triple-double if the Thunder are going to stay in the playoff race. Right now, they're 5th in the West, and that's a huge testament to Russell Westbrook and what he's been able to do so far this season. Like you said, averaging a triple-double. He's got the highest usage rate if the season were to end today in NBA history at 40% usage rate, which is just ridiculous.
Yeah.
And then he leads the league in real plus-minus at 13.9 points per game. And his value over replacement player is the highest in the league also at 3. So in order for the Thunder to be where they want to be, and that's in the postseason, and maybe get a chance to take a shot at Kevin Durant in the playoffs, Russell Westbrook's going to have to sustain this level of play throughout the entire season.
And just a quick question for you guys both, and either one of you can answer this one. Do you believe that his turnover ratio and the fact that he turned the ball over 10 times last night, do you think that's a problem, or are these stats making up for that?
Whose hands are you putting the ball in? I mean, if he's the only guy you put the ball in. They don't even have a real backup point guard. Right. So, I mean, yes, you want those turnovers down, know, but he's doing enough to cancel it out.
And I would add his assist to turnover ratio. He's still averaging 2 assists to every turnover. So
right. Mm-hmm. Yeah, all right.
That's something to keep in mind.
It's a good point. From Westbrook to the Western Conference, there are 3 teams at the top of the conference. Maybe you could say 4 if you include the Rockets. But although most people have considered the Warriors the favorite from day one, as soon as KD wrote the next chapter, they've shown some weaknesses. Now, come January 16th when we're back here, who's going to be leading the conference, and who's your favorite to win the conference at the end of the day, Dimitri?
Well, I'm actually going to go with that 4th team. I think the Houston Rockets have a great chance of winning the West. I think they'll be in first place by the time we get back because 13 of their 23 games between now and when we come back are against teams currently sitting outside the playoff race in both conferences. Not only that, they're on a 2-game winning streak, including that double overtime win in Golden State against the Golden State Warriors, the 2-time defending Western Conference champions. They're shooting 37 threes a game as a team, collectively shooting 38%, which is just astronomical. Mike D'Antoni has done a great job coming in and fixing the team, getting them to believe in, everyone has a green light to shoot. Corey Brewer shooting 25% from 3, and he says, Corey Brewer, just keep shooting, man. That's all we want you to do.
Do you think that's a good thing for this team going down the stretch?
I mean, if Harden keeps playing at the level he's playing at an MVP level right now.
Right.
So as long as you have that guy going and you continue to build the confidence of the roster around him, I think it's a perfect situation for the Rockets right now.
And Chris?
Meech, you're overlooking one primary point, you're overlooking the Spurs, Warriors, and Clippers. They're not chopped liver. They're not about to lose 4 games. You're still 4 games behind. We're just talking about 1 month. The Spurs currently are 11-0 on the road. 7 of their next 11 games are within their conference, in which they've only lost, I believe, 3 games. But I'll have to pick the Clippers. The Clippers they have 3 of the 12 of their next games are against teams that are in the playoffs. Everybody else is like chopped liver, and they're trash as well. So they're gonna have
just
a
love
better
chopped liver.
Yeah, chopped liver
it's
is just
delicious.
That's just how it goes.
It's just great stuff.
So they should do a better job of covering up their 2 games, and I think that they'll be at number 1 by the end of this time.
All right, and it'll be interesting to see who gets what going forward. But lastly, it is still relatively early in the NBA season, and there are always teams that start slow. Every year, there are teams that start slow, but eventually get back into things later once we get into the meat of the schedule. So, looking at teams that had high expectations this year coming in, I want to know which of those teams that's on the outside looking in at the moment will be in the midst of the playoff hunt come January.
It's got to be the Hawks. They're 10-11. They started off 9-2. They're 1-9 in their last 10, and people are, talking about all the injuries with Millsap and things like that, and they're questioning a little bit, what the Hawks will do. But the Pacers are right ahead of them, and they're falling as well. And the problem with the Pacers is they're 10-10. They have 8 road games, and they're 2-6 on the road. Whereas the Hawks have a little bit favorable schedule in these next couple games, these next 10 to 12 games that can kind of get them back in the hunt. Dwight Howard's starting to get round into form. Millsap will be healthy. I think that they're going to make that stretch run and get back in there in January.
And it's interesting to point out the schedule there. And Dimitri, what about you?
Well, I mean, the Hawks really isn't that bold of a choice, Chris. They're only 2 games back in the Eastern Conference, 2 games behind the 8th seed. That being said, I'd like to kind of take a bigger look at the overall standings, and I'm going to go with the New Orleans Pelicans in the West.
Okay.
Currently, I think they're about 4 or 5 games behind the 8th seed. They're 5 of 5 since Drew Holiday returned from taking care of his wife, who was battling cancer. They're only 4 games behind Portland, actually, in the 8th seed.
Okay.
They're getting Tyreek Evans back soon, which should definitely help. Buddy Hield last night had 16 points against Oklahoma City.
Maybe you hope,
but they lost.
Maybe you hope he comes back. It's a building block. Hopefully they build off of that, and Buddy Hield can continue to ascend. Plus, if you had to have one player to carry you to the playoffs, not already in the playoff race, wouldn't you want to choose Anthony Davis, currently averaging 32 points, 11 rebounds, and 3 blocks? I mean, if you give me anybody to pick on a non-playoff contending team right now, I'm choosing Anthony Davis, and I think he can definitely carry them to the 8th seed.
Yeah, it's a good point. And Anthony Davis, along with a guy like Karl Anthony Towns, maybe the type of players that you would want carrying you going forward. And a couple of good points. Drew Holiday is a great point to make about the Pelicans. They have played better, but I will say, if we're really looking at a team that legitimately has a shot, and I like the dark horse candidate, but the Atlanta Hawks, and the point that Chris made that really got it for me was that they just have to catch those Pacers, and the Pacers aren't playing well on the road, where Atlanta is having success thus far. And so both of you guys really killed it this whole round. I was really impressed. Chris, this is your specialty here. You were the heavy favorite. And Meech, you did a heck of a job hanging in here, but
Meech Nobly.
Chris is going to get, Meech Nobly. Chris is going to get the victory here. And so we'll head to the joust round where Chris will square off with Jimmy Calhoun, coming back talking college basketball, or college football rather. And we'll be right back. Keep with us on Hitting the Field.
Hey, Dad.
Today, when you have multiple devices at your fingertips, wouldn't it be great if you could run the software you need on all of them? Well, now you can. UCF Apps is a new and innovative way for you to access the applications that you need to get your coursework done from any PC, Mac, tablet, or smartphone. For more information or to give your input on UCF Apps, go to apps.ucf.edu. What are you waiting for? Start using UCF Apps today.
Lake Claire's Universities of Central Florida's place for relaxation, tranquility, and a good time. Students who crave the outdoors can experience the wonders of Lake Claire and all the benefits it has to offer. Lake Claire offers a wide variety of kayaks, wakeboards, canoes, and much, much more. All of this is free for UCF students and can be rented out every day of the year except for on football game days. Students can take advantage of the wide open spaces and throw around a frisbee with your friends, or attack the ball with our sandy volleyball court. Come by the dock, sit down, and enjoy the beautiful view of Lake Claire's clear blue waters. Located just off the side of Gemini Boulevard and Greek Park Drive, this bubble of nature is one you must check out after finals week. For more information and rentals, visit our website so you can enjoy Lake Claire today.
Today, when you have multiple devices at your fingertips, wouldn't it be great if you could run the software you need on all of them? Well, now you can. UCF Apps is a new and innovative way for you to access the applications that you need to get your coursework done from any PC, Mac, tablet, or smartphone. For more information or to give your input on UCF Apps, go to apps.ucf.edu. What are you waiting for? Start using UCF Apps today.
Welcome back to Hitting the Field. I am Jeremy Taché, and I'm joined by Jimmy Calhoun and Chris Davis for the final round, The Joust. It's college football talk, and normally we spend most of our time just talking about the top four, including my little spiel at the top of the show. But there are actually dozens of other bowl games coming up, and we have the college football playoff semifinals and the New Year's Six Bowls. There are teams like Stanford and our very own UCF Knights that will be playing in other games later on, or earlier on rather, during this bowl series, I guess we'll talk about. And so other than the New Year's Six Bowls, which bowl games are you guys looking forward to most? So Jimmy, we'll start with you.
I think it's got to be LSU in Louisville. It's going to be Leonard Fournette's last game as a Tiger. He's going to declare for the NFL draft, and it's a chance for Lamar Jackson to show the reason why he won the Heisman or why he should have won the Heisman. It's going to be a standout performance from both Lamar Jackson against the LSU defense and then Leonard Fournette against the Louisville defense.
Chris.
Way to take it, Jimmy. All right.
Thank you.
Well, I'll go the other route then. UCF and Arkansas. We're coming off of
Arkansas State.
Arkansas State. You know. Coming 6-6, I think this is just another step. You know, this is another going forward. I think we want to win this thing really bad, establish the running game, and establish something going for the future. And I think it'd be good for Orlando, period, to have it here in your backyard.
Right. It'll be great to see the, hopefully, home field advantage for the UCF Knights going forward. I mean, getting to play that basically home bowl game out at the Citrus Bowl, or Camping World Stadium now. But moving on, let's narrow things down a little bit. There are the New Year's Six bowl games other than the semifinals. So there's the Rose Bowl with the Big Ten champion Penn State and USC, the Sugar Bowl between Big 12 champ Oklahoma and Auburn, the Cotton Bowl between the Group of Five representative Western Michigan and Wisconsin, and the Orange Bowl with Michigan and FSU. So which of these games is the game to watch? Chris, we'll start with you.
Michigan FSU, come on. You got all these All-Americans. You got Walker. You got McFadden. You got Cook. You got Francois on FSU. You got Jabril Peppers. You got all of these seniors who are heated. They didn't get in the playoff. You know, you got Spate, who has something to prove. Mm-hmm. It's going to be one of those things where, you know, everybody's going to be chomping at the bit, preparing for this thing. Mm-hmm. Last year, Michigan won 41-7 over Florida. They looking to get 2 against Florida State.
Against those Florida teams. And Jimmy?
Yeah, Michigan will have something to prove, but I got to go with the Big Ten champ Penn State and USC. I mean, Penn State is going to look to show the committee why they should have been in the Final Four and why they are Big Ten champions and not Ohio State. And USC is coming in a 9-game win streak with wins over Colorado and Washington.
That's my team.
USC is one of the hottest teams right now in the nation. They're in the conversation for a top 4 team. If we're really doing that, 4 best teams, they're in the conversation, and so is Penn State. So I believe that'll be the best bowl game.
You're just trying to say that just to get my opinion going. You're just trying to get some brownie points. But now we get to the meat of the discussion. And to repeat again, Alabama 1, Clemson 2, Ohio State 3, and Washington 4. 3 conference champions, 1 at-large bid. So you guys know how I feel about the top 4 and our committee. But Chris, in your opinion, did they get this right?
Honestly, after breaking it all down, I think they did. Washington destroyed Colorado in the Pac-12 title game. Clemson won the ACC, which is the second best conference, in college football. Ohio State had wins against Oklahoma and Wisconsin on the road. They also beat Nebraska and Michigan.
Right.
You have Penn State, who lost to Michigan 49-10, and they also lost to Pittsburgh. So when you look at that and you look at everything together, I think at the end of the day they put the right four in as it stands right now. I think that was a little bit of a reach to try to put anybody else in like Penn State.
Okay.
See, I don't think they got it right because I think they mixed conference champions with the skill or with the best teams, because Ohio State, they picked the AAC champion, like you said, the Pac-12 champion, but they didn't get the Big Ten champion in there. They also had the SEC champion in Alabama, but then they picked the better team in what they thought was the Big Ten in Ohio State, but they didn't pick maybe the better team that they thought in the Pac-12, like USC, who beat Washington. I mean, Washington had a terrible out-of-conference schedule that they played, and they still made it in because they were a conference champion. Same thing didn't happen with Penn State. Ohio State made it in instead, even though they lost to Penn State. I believe you got to either pick a conference champion or you got to pick the best team, either one. But they did both this time, and I don't think they got it right.
Chris, you want another
question?
word?
So you would take Ohio State in and put Penn State in?
They're the big, either that
Take Ohio
or you
State
take
out and put Penn State in.
yeah.
Is what he's
either
saying.
that or you take Washington out and put USC in. You got to pick one.
You got to follow the money. Follow the money. Ohio State's money. That's money.
No, they lost to Penn State.
Nobody's watching Penn State and
What?
Penn State play.
Yeah,
Penn State's the Big Ten champion.
Penn State. Yeah, look. Completely. I'm on the same page in all reality as both of you guys. As much as frustrated as I've seemed to be, and I've been on the same side as Jimmy a lot in this conversation, saying that you got to go with either the best teams or you've got to go with the conference champions. But at the end of the day, they really did try to pick what they felt were the four best teams, I guess. But it's a pretty simple end of the show and end of the semester if we're looking at it here on Hitting the Field. Monday, January 9th, just a couple hours west out in Tampa, the College Football National Championship. Who gets there and who wins it?
I believe it's going to be Alabama and Clemson, and Alabama wins it. Roll Tide. They can score on the offensive side, they can score on the defensive side, and
They showed they could score on the defensive side.
They
That's
can beat
for
you in
sure.
so many aspects. They have so much NFL talent on that roster. They have great receivers, a freshman quarterback who is balling in that defense. They have skill positions on the defensive line and Jonathan Allen, linebackers Reuben Foster, and in the secondary with Minkah Fitzpatrick. It's just too much for anyone to handle.
And Chris?
Yeah, Alabama's overwhelming. I would, as much as I want to be a contrarian, they're overwhelming. I mean, I watched Clemson and Virginia Tech, and although that was a conference battle, they just didn't look good on defense.
Right.
I mean, they were getting ripped and carved in the second half, and Alabama's just going to peel their ears back and let that pass rush come after Watson. And if Watson gets it in his face and those corners are pressing their receivers like Williams, it's going to be a tough day for
So
Clemson.
you think it's Clemson over Ohio State as well? You think it's Clemson and Alabama? Both of you
Clemson and
agree.
Alabama, yeah.
So I have to ask then, if there is one team that has a shot to beat Alabama, because I think we can all agree they're the prohibited favorites. If there's one team that can beat them, who would that be?
I think it's Clemson with Deshaun Watson. They showed it last year in the national championship game how close they came, and a mobile quarterback always gives Alabama problems. Deshaun Watson can run, I think, a little bit better than J.T. Barrett. And I think he's a better quarterback than J.T. Barrett. I think Clemson had the best shot, but I think Alabama still gets
And Chris, what about you?
Ohio State. They got the blueprint. They don't have Ezekiel Elliott. They don't have Cardale Jones.
There
But
it
2
is right
years
there.
ago, when it comes to college football, you have coaches system schemes. They're going to put a scheme in place. I think they could put a scheme in place that could disrupt their offense. You also got a true freshman back there. You can't tell me that they wouldn't dial something up that'd make them go crazy. So I think Ohio State would have the best shot at that.
And that's a great point, Chris. And this was neck and neck the whole way through, but I think the thing that got me there was coaches. And coaching is really what wins national championships at this point. So, Chris, you're going to get the victory here. And I want to thank everyone. So check out our night vision on at Hitting the Field on Twitter. And I want to say thank you to everyone, especially our wonderful cast and crew, for being here throughout this semester. I really love you guys and appreciate all the hard work we've put in. So stay tuned with us and keeping back here. January 16th, we'll be back for our next episode, Hitting the Field.